Good. Hello, Dan. It's great to have an opportunity today to let you know about the Benjamin Franklin Writers Award, supported by the National Fire Heritage Center, as a way to keep the perishable preserved, especially the written history of the America's Fire Service. And one of the key focuses this year was to open the competition to digital documents. And I'm glad to introduce Dave Hedrick with the Missouri Fire Rescue Training Institute. And he submitted a study that they had conducted to engage firefighters or fire departments around the state in looking at their training needs. Dave, give us brief information about how you became involved in the fire service and with the university's training program.
Well, many firefighters, probably my age, remember a TV show called Emergency back in the early to mid 70s. And it was about two firefighter paramedics with the Los Angeles County Fire Department. And up until that point, I don't think I'd ever even thought about a career or being a firefighter. But after watching that show, I was enthralled and certainly thought what a great opportunity it would be to be part of a life-saving team. So that was back in the days before the internet. So I had to do a lot of manual searching to find out more about emergency medical programs. And Tennessee had started a licensing EMTs and paramedics back a few years before that. And so I was able to, with some persistence and being a pest of myself, get into an EMT class. And then from there, once I graduated, I was able to get on with a local fire department as a part-time fire rescue firefighter, and did that while I was finishing my regular college degree, and then went on board with them full-time and was working my way up through the ranks and had an opportunity to be a training officer. And that led to other opportunities with the Tennessee State Fire School through their outreach program. And from there, I had the opportunity to interview and be hired by Louisiana State University's Fireman Training Program back in the 80s. And that was certainly a great opportunity. I worked my way up from coordinator to finally assistant director, and learned a lot about the management and operations of statewide training systems. And I think that really helped prepare me for the future. Because I had a lot of experience after that with state fire training programs. I also was in some volunteer fire departments along the way for many years, and enjoyed that as well. And kind of keeping my experience and capabilities up and in the real world. And then in 2000, I had the opportunity to come back to Tennessee as the first fire service director of their new Fire and Codes Academy. It was under development at the time, under construction development. And after that, we came up operational, I think, in 2002. And it was a great experience, great group of people, great opportunities for the firefighters state of Tennessee. But as part of that, I had interactions with the North American Fire Training Directors, which is, as you probably know, is a international group of Canadian and United States state fire training directors. And that helped me get to know the directors in my surrounding states and kind of how they were operating and what they were doing. And so I had made friends with Gary Wilson, who was the director at the time of University of Missouri's Fire and Rescue Training Institute. And after he left, I had the opportunity to interview and be hired by MUFRTI. And I was very fortunate to lead that fine program for over 11 years before I kind of semi-retired in 2007. Excuse me, 2017.
Wow. I'm hoping that these calls that are coming in on my home line are not messing this up too much.
Yeah, let me say right quick, Lynn, that I certainly feel that I've had a great opportunity, by the grace of God, to be involved in an incredible career or avocation with the fire service, and it certainly is due to certainly the supporters that I've had throughout the years, my mentors, partners, compatriots, and friends along the way. I think fire service is truly a family, and I've been very pleased to be a part of that family.
Well, you've certainly had a wide variety of exposures to training, existing programs and developing programs. How did the survey of the Missouri fire training needs come about, and who all were involved?
Well, we were looking for working with the University of Missouri's Fire and Rescue Training Institute's advisory council on ways to assess training needs in the state. And they suggested that we do a in-depth survey. And so we formed a committee out of some of the members of the advisory committee, as long with myself as a director and my associate director, Kevin Zumwalt, and our field specialist, Gail Hagens. And we worked to develop survey questions that would provide the necessary data for planning and development of training initiatives to meet training needs that we identified along the way. As part of the process, the MU Fire and Rescue Training Institute's regional coordinators were great in helping us contact and reach the fire departments across the state, and even in some cases help them fill out the survey to make sure that we had a good database on which to use for the report. And then once we did get all the data in from the survey, or running the survey, we did use a part-time data technician, Jill Doherty, to help run the survey and sort data for me. And from that in-depth survey, we obtained the data that was necessary for me to develop the written narrative report on our findings.
Well, from that written report and the way that you have shared it with fire departments across the state, what do you think is the biggest impact it's had on training so far, or plans for future training in the state?
Well, I think it was important that we gathered demographic information of the participating fire departments to give us a better picture of the challenges and the needs that they had as we looked at statewide data or statewide report. But we took it a step further and we went and parsed the data down into by the region of the state. We drilled down to get a better picture of kind of local and regional needs. Those of you not familiar with the state of Missouri, it's divided up into 9 emergency response regions. Those regions are used if there was like such a major disaster to coordinate responses. But we also use those 9 geographic regions as training regions across the state as part of our outreach program with the University of Missouri. And again, by parsing that data by region, we were better able to assess needs within each of those regions. Certainly, Missouri is a highly rural and agricultural state, but we do have pockets of urban development and business and industry there. But one of the things that we had always used was that, always thought was that about 70% of the state's fire service was volunteer. It's pretty much a national figure, and so it's certainly one that we thought would fit rural Missouri as part of the outreach. But in the report, we did find that about 61% of the fire departments said they were volunteer, with 21% saying they were combination departments and 70% said they were career. However, we did, when we asked them what the major response area was that they had, how they would classify it, 71% did say that they handled a rural fire protection district or area as part of their response. We also determined that about 63% of the departments had established some minimal level of fire training, which is a good thing. They understood the need to make sure that even the new people they were bringing on board, even the recruit volunteers, were getting some minimal level of training to get them ready to go before putting them on the line, so to speak. One of the things that we were kind of aware of, but didn't have any data to show that, was that about 44% of the departments did not have access to compliant live burn training opportunities or facilities. And that kind of went to support some of our assumptions as we made progress forward to try to address those training needs.
Very interesting. I couldn't help but reflect on what I know about Texas training situations being predominantly rural, but yet major urban areas as well, and how to meet the needs of both in a training program when you're the state training facility. When you think about that, what do you think of the implications for other states, or have you had any follow-up with any other states who've looked at your report in terms of how a study like this could help them?
Well, actually, we did shortly after we completed the survey. We had some inquiries from some of our sister states surrounding Missouri about the survey and what we've done, and actually asked for us to share with them not only our results but our methodology as part of the survey, as well as our questions. So they might have the opportunity to repeat the survey within their state. But that's one of the things, again, that I guess I was interested in doing, was sharing it through the National Fire Heritage Center. Was that it's now a document within the archives and certainly available for people to see. It shows a snapshot in time of the history of Missouri's fire service and their response capability and where they're at in their training activities. But it also, again, could be used, the information in it could be used for other state level training systems across the United States to be able to survey their fire service and get the demographics and information they need to start making some initial planning on how to address training needs within their geographic areas.
Very good. You answered 3 of my questions in one answer. I think it's phenomenal that you recognize the importance of sharing what you've done beyond your state through the National Fire Heritage Center archives. And we'll be trying to help get the word out through this interview and other social media to help encourage more people to look at it. Are you aware of any other colleagues that are doing studies that should be put in the archives as well? I know you have faculty you work with or interface.
Well, yes, there are quite a number of people out there looking at different surveys and opportunities, and actually myself and Kevin Zumwalt and Ken Willett with the executive director for National North American Fire Training Directors have been in the process of conducting a survey for them that is kind of similar, but it's surveying not fire departments but training entities within Canada and the United States to get a better picture of capability and levels of training and activity that's going to help them as an organization move forward and make some decisions, and as well as their individual members be able to benchmark against. We established some averages of what the average state fire training system looked like, and they'll be able to benchmark against that and do some comparisons and say, how do we compare, and how do we improve, and how can we move forward? So I think that's exciting. I look forward to continuing to work as a volunteer with North American Fire Training Directors and other groups as they look at again establishing where they're at and what their needs are.
I think it's interesting that you're doing that, because we just had a very engaging discussion in the National Fire Heritage fireside chat this morning regarding how much training has changed over the years, and how some critical areas of training that seem to have been dropped as no longer important, like building construction, and I can't remember the other points, but the being able to maybe study the impact of those changes on fire loss and firefighter loss by not, whether or not they're covered in training, with so many things being required to be imported into training time.
That's an interesting point, and I don't have the data in front of me, but I do know that the National Fire Protection Association, based on NEFR's National Fire Incident Reporting System, came out with a report a couple months ago, I guess it was, looking at overall run numbers, responses by fire departments across the United States. And one of the things I think was showing, I think EMS runs were running, gosh, I don't remember now again the actual percentage, but somewhere between around 60 to 80% of the total runs of fire departments. And so, you know, we go, oh my gosh, should we be spending more time on EMS training for the fire department, since structure fires are down and actual fire response is down in comparison with EMS calls. But then we look at the EMS model, which is in recent years has looked at requiring more actual training time be spent on like pediatrics response emergencies, because that's such a small percentage of calls that they get. And their thinking was that it's a small percentage of calls, but when they do get them, they need to make sure they're trained and capable for those calls. And so that's why they have determined that they wanted to spend more time in both initial training and continuing education training on pediatric emergencies. And so should we take that model and look at the fire service and say, hey, certainly structure fire calls are down, and a very small part of what our fire crews do, but they are so hazardous, potentially hazardous. And since the firefighters don't see them as often as us old guys used to back in the day, yeah, do we need to spend more time on a lot of the interior structural firefighting activities, training activities, to make sure that our firefighters are prepared and ready when they do get those calls, because that's an area of great risk, and we want to make sure that we, as the campaign goes with the firefighters memorial, certainly that everyone goes home. We want to make sure that when the
Yes.
emergency is over, everybody goes home safe and sound.
You've really touched on some key points, and I applaud you for taking the leadership in helping us to do extensive analysis of what's going on with our training and its impact and its potential for the future. Is there anything else you would like to share about your view of what the importance of the Fire Heritage Center's preserving the perishable mission is? How training needs to be incorporated into that history?
Well, I guess give me just a second before we get there, and I want to make sure that people do understand again, I am retired or part-time, kind of a part-timer with the University of Missouri's Fire and Rescue Training Institute. They have a great program and do a great job, but I'm just one of those assets now that kind of help them along. So I want to make sure that people understand that I am not the main man there anymore. But that also, again, the University of Missouri works very closely with the state training entity, the overseer, which is the fire marshal's office, which is part of the Department of Public Safety within Missouri. They do a great job of helping provide subsidized training funds to training entities like the MU to be able to get out there and deliver training to the fire service in Missouri. We appreciate that partnership and that opportunity, and then them looking to us to utilize the information and data that we come up with, and the training plans, statewide training plans that we implement through the university. But getting back to the National Fire Heritage Center, yes, and you know, I'm actually a charter member of the National Fire Heritage Center, and had the opportunity, the honor to be selected for their Hall of Leaders, Legends, Legacies, and Leaders, I guess it's called, back in 2018. It was certainly a humbling experience, and I think part of that made me think about, again, things that I could share with the National Fire Heritage Center that might be of importance to adding to the current history of the fire service, as well as be used for doing additional studies by other people in the future. But I'm a real ardent believer in the need to protect and preserve our past and traditions of the fire service. I know some people kind of think sometimes maybe I'm stuck in the past, and I know the fire service is certainly a dynamic occupation. We certainly need to continue to do research and look at new methods, techniques, and tools to do the job and do it effectively and safely as possible. However, I do believe that our ancient philosophers had that saying that study the past if you would define the future. And I think that is important to us. More recently, probably one of the national educators and speakers that you've seen out there across the United States, Chief Rick Lasky, he has a saying that says, if you truly want to see what the fire service is, where the fire service is headed, then you have to look back to where it all started. And I think, again, he's kind of hit the nail on the head that we need to certainly not only preserve and honor our past, but that through that we ensure our success in the future. United States Fire Service has had a great history. For over 275 years, they have provided protection of saving lives and property. And I think, again, that history and tradition should certainly be carried on, and we protect that past as we look to the future. And I think that's all part of what the National Fire Heritage Center does. It helps us preserve and protect that past for future generations, and hopefully they can build upon that and continue to lead the fire service in the right direction.
Thank you so much, David. I just really appreciate your taking time to submit your survey and to share your thoughts with us today, because I think your rich history in the fire service and your commitment to what the NFHC is about is an example for that next generation. And I'm hopeful that by sharing this, more people will stop and think. It's exciting to me when we encounter young firefighters who just want to know more about people like you, how you got there. You know, they see signs of success and they want to repeat that in their lives. And thank you so much for taking time to visit with me today. Any closing comments?
Well, certainly, you know, the young people of today, as they look at fire service's potential career, I know sometimes they get frustrated. There's a lot of people wanting to be firefighters today, and sometimes it's hard to get into get their name or foot in the door, or the name on the hiring rosters and those kind of things. I just urge them to be persistent. If I had not been persistent in my younger years and fought my way into an EMT class and worked hard at the profession, I was able to again have a wonderful career, 40+ year career. And so I would encourage younger people that as they look toward the profession, whether it's as a career firefighter or a volunteer, that they not get discouraged. That if they really want this, they can make it happen. I think they just need to work at it, find the right key, the right way to proceed, and there will be those opportunities.
Very good. Thank you so much, and we look forward to your continued support for the National